Ladies and gentlemen, I'm really delighted to be here this morning. And when I say that, I'm sincere. Two reasons. One is the choice of venue of this conference, uniting Europe and Africa. Why the choice of venue? For a historical reason. In 1979, when a group of what was considered to be a group of crazy NGOs started working on the issue of female circumcision, the leader of that group was a lady from the Netherlands, Cathy David. And the seed money that came for that work was from the Netherlands. And from 1979 until 1984, that group worked on this issue of female circumcision. Despite all the problems and the naming and the shaming on the part of other delegates, these brave women and a few men stood up and they said, this is intolerable. We have to deal with it. Then that led to, in 1984, again with grant from the Netherlands government, largely, and from other sources, to a meeting in Dakar, 1984. There was the birth of the Inter-African Committee. And now, the theme, appropriate, uniting Europe and Africa, being discussed here, I find it really historical. Because, fortunately now, female genital mutilation is no more a taboo subject. In fact, it is becoming a global issue. And you find it in many global agendas as an issue, as a violence, as health, as a human rights. So, this is the time for us to come together and say, look, we cannot fight it alone in Africa. We cannot fight it alone in Europe. So let's unite our forces and tackle it from all fronts. The theme and the venue are most appropriate. Now I would like to go back to history again. Excuse me for that. Why female genital mutilation? Why is it a norm? As we all know, the human society, the history of the human society is marked by developing norms, values, internalizing them, preserving them, and protecting them, and carrying them. Why? Because it gives a sense of security, a sense of identity, which is very important for the society as well as for the individual. Norms and values. Because these respond to three fundamental questions, which are very important for survival and for coping mechanisms. Who am I? Where do I belong? And what is my worth? Those are three fundamental questions which we always ask. Who am I? I'm an Ethiopian. And as an Ethiopian, I have so many norms and values that have been internalized. And what is my worth? As an Ethiopian, I respond and abide by the rules. Hence, I'm respected. Hence, I'm accepted. I'm a member of my community. That gives enormous sense of security. That is why, wherever we are, very difficult to change. We may leave our frontiers, our natural environment. We may move to a new environment, Europe. I have lived in Europe for 38 years, but I still remain an Ethiopian. Impossible to change. Of course, change is there, but completely to become somebody, impossible. That is why We come with our baggage of norms. We remain Malians living in the Netherlands. We remain Eritreans living in Canada. And that is why we try to also maintain the tradition and keep our kids and daughters as us. We always fight and say, no, you cannot behave like that as an Ethiopian, even living in Switzerland. So this sense of security and identity and security has to be fully realized in order for us to tackle with the issue of female genital mutilation and other practices appropriately. But within this reality, what we observe is that not all traditional values and norms are favorable to groups, to all the groups. Some of these practices give advantage to one group and oppress another. This has been a human history. In this case, female genital mutilation is of course a control mechanism for the benefit of men. But women have accepted it despite the pain because it gives a sense of security and belongingness. Women come with that baggage for a sense of security. But it doesn't also mean that the human society is static. Fortunately, we have the capacity to learn, to absorb, and to change when new information filters in. In our campaign against female genital mutilation, we fully realize the normative aspect of the practice, the value it has for women and the society, as well as the consequences of this practice, the harmful consequences of this practice. Hence, in our work in the Interafrican Committee, we believe, and we do, going down to the community, dialoguing with the community, understanding the mental map of the community, and understanding the situation of women, the economic situation, the social and educational level of the women and men. The Inter-African Committee when we were created in 1984, we set out a challenge for ourselves. We said, look, this is an African problem, not knowing that it was going to be imported to Europe, not realizing. We have to find ways and means of dealing with it in an African manner, dialoguing with the community, respecting the community, but at the same time giving information, viable information that it could be acceptable to our groups, target groups. The first thing we did after we created the Inter-African Committee in 1984 was to establish committees in all the countries where the practice exists. Because we believe that it's up to the community to organize itself and to deal with the issue in a language that will be understandable, using communications that will be respectable. So we established 28 national committees as affiliates. And now we even have 16 affiliates in Europe. Our vision, a society where women and children, girls enjoy their human rights, and our mission, gender equality, by fighting harmful traditional practices. What is our strategy? Our strategy is holistic, integrated, multi-pronged, Money